Welcome to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. Today marks a significant milestone as we step into the 10th season of the podcast. I'm surprised myself that we're already here because this season we celebrate a landmark achievement. We're going to reach our 100th episode. It's a moment to reflect on this journey that we've shared over the past 2.5 years. Each of you listening has made this possible, and I'm profoundly grateful for your support. I want to take some moments to look back and think about all the remarkable guests that have joined me and us, each bringing, as the title of the podcast says, their unique stories, insight and experience on how they dealt with their grief and trauma. And some of the episodes have resonated with our community most. So let's have a look at the top 5 most listened episodes. At number 1 is my friend and guest Toria Hanover, which I actually had 3 times here on the podcast. And her first episode, which is episode number 4, is where she talks about the loss of her significant partners in life, which has happened multiple times through death. First, the death of her husband early on in her life, and most recently, the death of her beloved partner. I'm going to link all these episodes in the show notes, so please find them there. On second place is an episode with James Fishgill. It's episode number 51, and he's a brilliant teacher. He talks about how to bring loving awareness to your pain. And actually, this is a two-part episode, so have a look. This is part number 1, episode 51. Absolutely go and listen to this episode because he's a brilliant master at that. And then on third place is the first episode, which was also a guest that I had multiple times on the podcast, and her name is Rachel Tenpenny, now McGonigal, and the first episode is where she talks about why and how healing is possible. Then fourth place again is the second episode with Toria, where she reflects back on a year later after we actually looked at that the first time. So it's a really good, interesting episode to listen in sequence. First episode number 4 and then episode number 64. And then on 5th place is one of my solo episodes called Trauma and its Impact on the Nervous System, where I share a little bit more on what actually your body does if it deals with trauma. But let's also talk about what's ahead in this season, because we have an incredible lineup that I know will inspire, comfort, and perhaps even transform you. We are welcoming back grieving parents who shared their stories with me over a decade ago during the interviews for my first book, Grieving Parents: Surviving Loss as a Couple. That book recently celebrated its 10th anniversary earlier on this year, and as we hear from these parents again, we'll learn how their journeys have evolved over a decade and how they continue to live with loss and love. I think here we have an absolutely great chance to visit those people again after a decade and see how they traveled with their loss and their love for their child. Alongside these stories, I'll be diving deeper into some of the topics that are really dear to my heart, and I also believe that they will offer even more support and understanding for you and for everyone else in our community. This season, I'm going to explore how our nervous system processes traumatic loss and what happens when grief and loss intertwine, which is sort of my most passionate area in this. We'll look at the body's responses and how we can begin to gently regulate those intense emotions and use what I have learned in Polyvagal Theory, which I'll explain further, and ways that we can heal from within, taking the body's innate wisdom into account. Now, if you enjoy this podcast and want more people to discover it, please take a moment to follow us and leave a rating on Apple Podcasts. Your ratings help others find this resource, and I'd be so grateful for your support. Of course, you can also share one of your favorite episodes with a friend and let them know what inspired you to listen to it and how it has impacted you. And remember, please, that this podcast is still entirely self-funded and self-produced by me. So every little bit of support helps. Even just a couple of dollars per month can make a big difference, allowing us to keep bringing these vital conversations to you and to those who might be struggling. Ultimately, this podcast is here to empower you and remind you that you are not alone. Healing happens one breath at a time, one step at a time, and we're here to take that journey with you. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. If you want to share your views personally with me, please send me an email. I'd love to hear feedback from you personally. And here's to our 100th episode and many more to come. And remember to keep on breathing. I promise it will get easier.